Hi, Professor. Thanks for watching our product review presentation. Today we're taking a critical look at a product called LMNT, a zero-sugar electrolyte drink mix that gained a lot of popularity in the fitness and nutrition world. Each packet of LMNT contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It's specifically marketed towards athletes, people on low-carb or ketogenic diets, and anyone who sweats a lot, with claims that it boosts energy, provides recovery, prevents cramping, and supports hydration more effectively than regular sports drinks. LMNT promotes itself as science-backed, and its messages focuses on the idea that its exact electrolyte ratio mirrors what the body loses through sweat. But the boldness of these claims, especially around sodium, is what makes the product worth investigating. One serving already gives 2/3 of the American Heart Association's daily sodium limit, and without accounting for any other dietary sodium during the day. On top of that, the supporting research LMNT points to is mostly published on their own website through something they call the Salty Science blog, which isn't peer-reviewed. And when you dig into the research itself, a lot of it is based on elite or endurance athletes, not regular people going to the gym a few times a week. So in this project, we're asking, are LMNT's claims supported by credible research? Are its ingredients levels effective? And more importantly, are they safe? My teammate will now walk you through the evidence behind LMNT's formulation to see how well the science actually supports what the company says.
So, LMNT is marketed as a zero-sugar electrolyte drink mix designed to improve hydration, energy, and physical performance. Each serving contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, and the company claims that these match the electrolytes our bodies lose through sweat, especially during intense exercise. The product is mostly targeted at athletes, but it's also popular with everyday users and people on keto or low-carb diets. To evaluate these claims, we looked at 5 research sources, some peer-reviewed and some not, and tried to assess both the quality and quantity of evidence, whether it actually supports what LMNT is saying. The first source I came across was a 2024 article by Waterboy, which estimates that people can lose between 460 to 1,840 milligrams of sodium per hour while sweating, depending on the environment and exercise intensity. So from that angle, LMNT's high sodium content makes sense, but the article isn't peer-reviewed and is written by a company that sells its own hydration products. So while the numbers are helpful, we can't fully trust the objectivity. On the stronger side, there's a 2020 peer-reviewed study by Krisher. It found that electrolyte-enhanced beverages helped improve hydration and muscle performance in athletes working out in hot conditions. That definitely supports LMNT's claim, but LMNT wasn't actually tested in that study. So it supports the general idea of electrolyte drinks, but we still don't know if LMNT specifically works the same way. There's also a study in 2020, a meta-analysis by Gurick, which looked at multiple studies and concluded that sodium supplementation shows little to no performance benefit in recreational athletes. That challenges LMNT's useful for the average user who isn't an endurance athlete, and it lines up with public health guidelines that warn against too much sodium in general. When it comes to potassium and magnesium, LMNT only includes 200 milligrams and 60 milligrams per serving. A health article by Jensen says the potassium amount is less than 5% of the recommended daily intake, and the review by Carville and Cronin shows that the benefits of magnesium are usually only seen at much higher doses, like 300 to 400 milligrams per day. On top of that, studies on magnesium's effects on performance showed mixed results, so it's hard to see whether LMNT's dose would do anything noticeable. So in terms of research quality, only some of the studies were peer-reviewed, and LMNT hasn't been tested in a controlled clinical trial. A lot of the content they cite are from their own blog or marketing materials, which aren't peer-reviewed or independent. That raises some concerns about bias and makes it harder to fully trust the claims. As of gaps in the research, there are no long-term studies looking into the effects of drinking LMNT regularly, and most of the positive results apply to very specific populations like marathon runners, athletes, or people who run in extreme conditions. There's also no mention of health risks for people with high sodium diets, heart conditions, or low activity levels. So overall, LMNT's claims are partially supported, but mainly for elite athletes or people who are doing intense activity in the heat. For everyday users, the benefits are just a lot less clear, and the research just doesn't fully back up the product's marketing.
Starting with the evidence, both the LMNT website and the Well-Centric Health article highlight the benefits of LMNT's formula, claiming it's backed by science. However, neither source presents any peer-reviewed studies directly testing the products. This weakens the credibility of their claims, especially for the average consumer. While the website is transparent about its formula, like listing 1,000 milligrams of sodium per serving, it fails to address concerns around other ingredients. For instance, LMNT only includes 60 milligrams of magnesium per serving, which is far below the recommended 300 to 400 milligrams per day. There is no explanation for the low dosage, which raises questions about the product's overall effectiveness. Additionally, there's a clear promotional bias. The website hosts its own branded science blog and, along with the Well-Centric article, avoids mentioning any research limitations or opposing findings. The tone is purely supportive, without critical evaluation. This lack of transparency signals a conflict of interest and suggests that the content prioritizes marketing over science. Independent research does offer partial support for LMNT's claims. A peer-reviewed study by Krisher et al. Found that electrolyte drinks improve hydration in endurance athletes under high heat. This supports LMNT's sodium content, 1,000 milligrams per serving, which aligns with typical sodium loss in high exertion conditions. However, it's important to note LMNT itself wasn't tested, but instead the study used a different product called KNES, which also happened to be the sponsor for the study, which raises potential bias concerns. In contrast, a 2020 meta-analysis by Grigic et al. Found no clear benefit from sodium supplementation in recreational athletes. This suggests LMNT's effectiveness may apply more to elite athletes than everyday users. From a methodological perspective, LMNT hasn't been independently tested. Its magnesium and potassium contents, 60 milligrams and 200 milligrams, are significantly lower than the doses used in most of the studies that were presented here. One such review even found inconsistent results when at higher magnesium doses. Finally, the lack of third-party testing, combined with promotional framing and low ingredient levels, weakens LMNT's overall credibility. While it may be useful for high-performance athletes, general consumers should approach its claims with caution until more direct evidence becomes available.
So to wrap up, our evaluation finds that LMNT's claims are partially supported by current research, but only in specific situations. There's evidence that electrolyte drinks, including sodium, can help with hydration and performance during prolonged or high-intensity exercise, especially in hot conditions. However, the average gym goer or someone just looking to stay hydrated during light activity, 1,000 milligrams of sodium per serving may actually be too much, especially considering that the American Heart Association recommends 1,500 milligrams per day total. LMNT's magnesium and potassium levels are also quite low compared to what's typically used in research, and there are no independent peer-reviewed studies that test the effectiveness or safety of the LMNT's specific formulation. A lot of companies' evidence comes from their own blog, which isn't reviewed by outside experts, so there's a concern about bias. Based on these findings, LMNT might be helpful for elite athletes training in intense conditions, but it's not suitable for everyone. People with cardiovascular concerns or high sodium diets should be cautious. Moving forward on the research, we recommend independent clinical studies on LMNT's full blend, and especially more long-term research on how regular high sodium use affects people who aren't high-performance athletes. Thank you for your time, Professor. Take care now.